Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for logging in and joining us this afternoon. We welcome you to It Starts With Mom live from Chicago. I'm Michelle Relaford, anchor for NBC5. I should say morning news anchor for NBC5. And I am also a proud mom. Again, we are very excited to have you join us today. We know how challenging the past few months have been for everyone, especially for moms. As we face the COVID-19 crisis, it is more important than ever before that we come together to support moms, babies, and families. And that is why we are here today. Today, we'll launch a series of conversations in Chicago that will address some of today's biggest challenges of motherhood. We want you to feel empowered to navigate through the daily hurdles of being a mom. We're diving into a subject today that impacts every working mom, and that is work-life integration at every career stage. How moms are juggling childcare, education, especially e-learning right now, work, relationships, and taking care of themselves at the same time is all truly amazing. I am very proud to partner with March of Dimes and our sponsor, Barilla America, to bring this discussion to you today. Moms and babies are facing an urgent crisis, with the U.S. being the most dangerous place to give birth in the developed world. March of Dimes is on our side, leading the fight for the health of all moms and babies. They work to advance research, affect policy change, and provide care and support to moms, babies, and families. So again, I want to thank you all for joining us, being with us this afternoon for the first ever It Starts With Mom live from Chicago. So let's dive in now and meet today's panelists. Joining me is Laura Burke, Nashonda Williams, and Lisa Davidson. Welcome, ladies. So good to see all of you. We know each of you are moms, professionals, and leaders in our community, juggling the many new challenges COVID-19 is throwing your way. We are very excited to hear your personal insight on how you are integrating work and life right now. So I will like to start by introducing Burke, Vice President of Human Resources at Barilla America. She has responsibility for North and South America. She is an advisory board member for Missouri State University and a woman's mentor for the Executive Club of Chicago. Laura enjoys volunteering and supporting the Cradle Adoption Agency, Special Olympics, and several diversity and inclusion organizations. And Laura is married with 3 children, including twin girls. Oh boy, their children are 15 and 20 years old. Laura, welcome to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Also joining us today is Nashonda Williams, Senior Director of Technology Services at JLL. Nashonda manages over 70 accounts in the Central Region. She also leads the Black Professionals Network at JLL, which has 12 chapters and more than 3,000 members. Nashonda is a proud member of the Executive Club of Chicago and as well as the former Vice President of BDPA Chicago. And that's an organization that focuses on providing technology awareness to those in the Chicagoland area. And Nashonda is married with 3 kids, ages 14, 11, and a 5-month-old baby boy. In fact, Nashonda just returned to work from maternity leave in June. So welcome, Nashonda, and congratulations.
Thank you.
So good to see you. And our third panelist is Lisa Davidson, Vice Chairman, Director, and Chief Diversity Officer at Saviles US. She joined the firm in 1997 and has more than 30 years of experience as an advocate on behalf of commercial tenants in downtown Chicago and the Midwest region. Lisa is involved in numerous professional and civic organizations. She's a member of the Economic Club of Chicago and serves on the U.S. Board of Saviles. Lisa is married and has 2 children, and her daughter is in the final year of UW-Madison, and her son is also gainfully employed. Welcome, Lisa. So good to have you as well.
Thank you, Michelle.
So I think all of us can relate when I say that the way we conduct life has dramatically changed since the onset of COVID-19, especially for moms, Moms often shoulder the planning, the organizing, and the responsibilities for a family, all while still needing to meet our professional goals. The lines between motherhood and careers have indefinitely blurred, with life and work happening right now under the same roof. So to our panelists, I pose our first question. How do you balance being a mother, educator, and a professional? Laura, I'll start with you.
Thank you. Thank you to the March of Dimes, and it's a pleasure to be on the distinguished panel. So I think first of all, this notion of work-life balance it's kind of a joke. It's more of a blend, and it's trying to figure out when you need to lean into work a little bit more, when you need to lean into motherhood a little bit more, and all too often, mom is at the bottom of the list, and so knowing when sometimes you need to move mom to the top of the list. And I'm actually fortunate. I know a lot of moms on the call today have little people at home, and they're adding teacher to that role and really helping our formal educators be teachers at home. And it's not easy. So it's very difficult. And I think just kind of one day at a time.
Well, thank you so much. And Lisa?
Yeah, so fortunately for me, I'm not the best person to answer this question right now because my children are grown. But I feel for all of you. I've said often I can't even imagine what it's like for you during this time. But I think the key is patience. I was fortunate enough to have the blessing of my son, who is now living in New York. He actually during COVID came home when New York was really bad, and I had the experience of having him back in the house again for several months. So he wasn't at school, but he had his job and he was working on his computer like the rest of us. And so, you know, I think I know having that mindset of having patience, I think, because, you know, even that was sort of difficult as we all were vying for whether it be the internet or some quiet time so that the people we were talking to couldn't hear things beyond us. So I think the key is just patience and being grateful for what you have.
That's great advice. And Nashonda, how about you? I mean, you not only have to deal with e-learning, but then you have a 5-month-old who demands all of your attention, I'm sure. How are you dealing with this?
Yes, it's definitely an integration. There are a couple of things that have been really helpful for me. And the first one is knowing yourself. You have to really know your strengths, your weaknesses, so that you can ebb and flow as needed. And I'll give you an example. When my son was born March 28th. This is right before everything got shut down. And my second son, who's actually going to sixth grade now, I got an opportunity to really understand what was going on because we were doing e-learning. And I realized he was behind, very behind. The assignments were overwhelming. And what happens, as you all know as moms, when your child is behind, you end up having to make up for that slack. But it was just too much because I had to work during the day and then try to teach him how to do a paragraph, and he was trying to figure out how to write a sentence. So it really was just unbalanced. So I made the decision to homeschool my son. And with that, it was very scary. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. I went through a couple different programs, but the blessing in that is that he's more independent. He has a set schedule. I do spend a couple of hours every weekend lesson planning, but he has his own schedule, and that allows me to be able to work during the day versus diverting all the time of helping him with assignments that might be a little too difficult. So that's what's worked for me. It's just the balance, and it's knowing myself. I'm an organizer, so if I spend the weekend organizing, I can breathe during the week versus other people might, you know, do a day-to-day type situation. So it's all about knowing what works for you.
And I know organization has to be key. During COVID-19, we are all, of course, navigating not only a new normal at home, but also as work as well. That may include setting new boundaries and asking for additional support. Laura, I want to start with you with your background in human resources. What advice can you share with moms on advocating for themselves in the workplace?
Yeah, and I think this is so important because it's new territory for all moms. You know, we haven't ever had to go through this before. I think, you know, part of it depends on the company culture of where you're at. But at least for us, what I've really tried to encourage moms is ask for what you need. I don't want to presume that you need help. I don't want to presume that I know the best answer for you. So really asking for what you need. When we've gone out and we've asked a lot of moms, you know, how can we best support you now? And honestly, a lot of them are saying they don't know. They don't know what they need right now for support. But I think once you figure out if there's a few things that would really just help lighten the burden, you know, don't be afraid to ask for that. One example in our manufacturing environments is instead of saying, what support do you need, is we flipped the coin and said, when can you work? Because this notion of having to be teacher during the day and trying to figure out work and trying to, you know, look like you have it all together. I know I don't have it all together. It's just, it's too much. So we flipped the coin and said, when can you work? And a lot of them said, look, we can work on the weekends, or we need to adjust our schedules. And so that really helped a lot, just to change the conversation. But I would just encourage moms to ask for what you need.
And then when they do find out what they need, do you encounter where women feel maybe insecure about asking that question or making, you know, those suggestions because they may be in a competitive environment, and, you know, you have men all around you who may not have those demands and those needs? Do you find that they're reluctant to express themselves when they do identify those needs?
Yeah, I think earlier, and we heard that loud and clear, that working leaders, especially moms, said, it's going to look poorly on my career, or it's going to hold me back, and I don't want to ask for help. And I need, you know, historically, women have just figured it out. They've just figured out what they need to do to get their work done. And my mom always said, if you want something done, give it to a busy mom, figure out how to get it done. I think it's true. But I think today, and what's happening in our country, and just with everything that's going on, it really takes courage. And I think what we're finding is that if we can encourage women to have the courage to ask for what they want, the payoff may not be today or tomorrow, but the payoff is going to be on the back end of this, is that they're going to be grateful for those types of companies who actually supported them when they needed that support most. And quite frankly, if the companies are not supporting those moms, they're going to take their time and talents to other organizations who will value that. So I'd say try, and to companies out there, if you're not trying to be flexible or to work with your moms, you're going to lose them in the long run.
Great advice. Thank you very much. And Nashonda, I pose the question to you. How are you advocating for yourself within your company so that you can be the parent that you need to be?
There's two things. One, I go towards my strengths, and this is important for me. Whenever I take on a role or a job, I focus on what I could do really well versus spinning my wheels hours doing things that I can't. Even as I work in technology, my other role is being the lead of the Black Professionals Network, and that's where I can kind of exercise some of those strengths that I might not be able to do in my job. So that's how I'm an advocate for myself. I go towards my strengths and I do things that I know I can do well. The second part is there's a book called How Women Rise. It's an excellent book. Definitely recommend it. But it goes into how men and women kind of think differently, and how we're a lot of times collaborative. And we need to take credit. If you do something and do it well, take credit for it versus saying, hey, it was a team effort. Everybody wins. No, if you led the project and the project was a success, take the credit. So be an advocate for yourself, because if you're not an advocate for yourself, then who else will?
All right, great advice as well. Thank you so much. Many companies right now heeding the call from their mom employees and making adjustments to lend support during this time. Lisa, I want to ask you, what was the corporate culture like 10 years ago for women and working mothers? And what policies can companies put into place to move toward gender equality?
Yeah, well, I think the culture was really more around, FaceTime. I remember when my kids were young, I had decided that I would come in the office 4 days a week, and then that fifth day of the week I was still working, but I would work from home. And my at the time that my kids were young, the person who was my boss referred to me as a part-time worker, and which I didn't really appreciate, because that actually turned out to be one of my best years ever, because we're on a commission job, and so from an income standpoint, and but the culture was definitely one of FaceTime. And I think as Laura said previously, you just found a way, and for sure you didn't in terms of advocating for yourself. I mean, there was a real fear of coming off as like a whiner and somebody who's always asking for things. You definitely didn't want to stand out and be asking for anything special. And then I think to your point, you talked about the idea of oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but the idea of advocating for yourself. And I think that it was just something that was would have seen it more like a microaggression. That was the word I was searching for, in terms of, you know, if you took credit for a project or called somebody out on something that demeaned you, I think it was really not seen well in the workplace. As far as employers today, I think that, you know, just I think there is already recognition, maybe because of the not just COVID, but also because of the focus on diversity and inclusion right now. I think there is some understanding of having more flexibility and that it's not around FaceTime. So I think right now is just sort of the beginning of that, and bodes really well for the future.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure you've also been very involved with these changes as the lead of human resources, Laura, at Barilla America. Can you share a little about the work you and Barilla are doing to support moms who are working at home with their kids right now?
Yeah, look, I mean, I can't imagine. I had 3 teenagers until today. So today I have 2 20-year-olds. So now I have 1 teenager at home and 2 20-year-olds. But I also have a support system around me. So my husband is here. I cannot imagine being a single mom or a woman of color and having to overlay on top of this all the racial injustice that's happening. And it's super, super stressful. And it's overwhelming. And so I think what we've tried to do is beyond just the normal employee assistance program and benefits and flexibility, is that I also find that moms are not taking time off. And it goes back to, I don't want this to look poorly if I need to ask for time off. But I don't know about you guys, but nobody's going on vacations now and they have the time off. And so even things that they have, I find moms are really reluctant to leverage. And again, I think it's because they're trying to look strong, trying to look like they're, you know, they can pull it all off. And I just encourage, you know, look at what you have available at your fingertips. Make sure that you're leveraging them, not to look like you're weak, but to actually help you balance and integrate and take the time when you need it, because this is going to be a long road ahead. So we need to make sure that we're helping each other. And to all the women who have lived some of this, like, be a good ally, be a good helper. I've offered to take babies and puppies, so my house is open. So if you need an hour, Nashonda, bring me that baby boy. I will take him. So if you need a nap or just want a break, come on over. So I think we have to really encourage and help each other a lot.
That's really sweet and really brave of you. All of your friends and family are grateful to know you. And so with the daily changes and the school plans, and then of course, new styles of learning, working moms have to constantly pivot their approach, and so do their companies. So Nashonda, how are you and JLL working to address future uncertainties like the changing school schedules?
Yes, I'm very lucky because I work for a great company with JLL, and it really starts with your manager, right? They have to be supportive of you, and I've had various different managers at JLL, and they all have been advocates of get the work done. So it's not, you know, they don't care what time I start, what time I end, as long as I get the work done. That's really the priority. And so I'm able to flex a lot with my schedule, which is definitely helpful. JLL also has subsidized childcare through Bright Horizons. So if something happens tomorrow and I need care, I can get that fairly quickly. And that's been just a stress relief, right? Because we all have been there where your child gets sick at the last minute or needs a lot more attention than what you're expecting. And so I have that when needed for emergency care. And JLL is also starting a parent and caregiver resource group. So for those parents that are in a situation similar to mine, we're going to be able to come together and talk and congregate. And that's really half the battle, is to know that you're not alone. Like this is very common. We're all in this together. And you know, it could feel very alone just because we're isolated for the most part. But to realize that there are other people out there that are going through the same thing is huge. And so I'm glad that JLL is starting a resource group for parents like me.
Wow, that is phenomenal. And subsidizing childcare, that is major. I'm sure a lot of people would love to be able to say that about their companies. Lisa, same question for you and Saviles. How are you working together to address future uncertainties?
Yeah, well, the first thing is full flexibility in terms of the ability to come into the office or not come into the office. So I think what we forget sometimes is that sometimes staying at home is not the best for working moms or even, you know, or even dads. Sometimes the situation at home, whether it's your access to internet or other things that may distract you, sometimes you need to come into the office. So our office is actually set up and COVID ready so that you can come in, and there is support in terms of if you don't want to take public transportation, the company will pay for an Uber to come to the office. And the second thing that we're doing that we're really proud of is for female brokers, we, as I mentioned before, we get paid on commission. So when we had leave, parental leave, when we had children, while we had the time off, in you know, most companies you still don't get paid though, because you're on commission. Now our company is offering that for the brokers on commission, they actually are going to pay during for 6 weeks of parental leave. So that was a big win for us.
That is a big win. And so,
Yeah.
and I guess I could pose this to any of the panelists, for people who are at companies that don't have these programs, is there any other recourse, or how do they proceed in maybe making these suggestions? Is that something that they can do?
So I think that comes around that whole concept, again, that book, How Women Rise, and just being, you know, we had the same thing, Lisa, where we got our extended parental leave, and it came about because there was one group, a group of women that came together, and they did research externally and found out what all the other companies are doing. And they presented to our healthcare and our HR leadership saying, externally, this is what everybody's doing. We need to at least be at the same level. And it got approved. And it took, again, this was a great 4 to 5 women who made a difference for everyone in the company. So if you are passionate about it and you come with a case that is legit and presented well, I think that you could make some progress.
And I think once again, that goes back to women being able to stand up and speak up and say what they need.
Right.
This is a very important topic that we're going to talk about now. And I know that this is something that I could definitely use some work on, something very critical to our sanity. Self-care. Michelle Obama said, to be a good parent, you need to take care of yourself so that you can have the physical and emotional energy to take care of your family. And I think that even just goes back to the airport, you know, experience when they say, you know, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help everybody else. I want to hear from all of you. What is your favorite thing to do just for you right now? Nashonda?
Well, I'll give you 2 things that I do. So first, the one thing with the integration now with the family being here all the time is I used to work from home and just be me, and now it's the whole family. So I'm the type of person that noise, it can so when my husband's on a call and the baby's crying and my son is asking, that is way so to try to offset that, one, I get up in the morning and I go for a walk, and I take my son with me because during the walk he's quiet. He doesn't cry. He's just looking around at the trees, but I get that like 30 minutes of just calm and peace. And that kind of just level sets me for the day. And if I don't do that and I wake up to noise, it just kind of impacts my day. So that's something for me. The other thing is Wednesdays. So everybody in the house knows that Wednesdays is after work is the day that it's for me. Like I do what I want. I go out. Like last week I went swimming and I went to work out. Tomorrow I'm having a social distance date with a friend. It's my day where I could just be me and have that self-care and be unapologetic about it. When I come home, sometimes, my husband, like last week, he was like, oh man, Deuce is my son's nickname. He's like, oh, Deuce was, crying and kind of, irritable. And, RBG, who, recently passed, once said that she got the greatest advice that sometimes you have to be a little deaf and, not really hear. So that's what I do. I come home and I hear all the noise and all the issues that happened when I was gone. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I really hear that well. So that I could be unapologetic next week, because they have to figure it out. Like they have to figure it out, and they actually do. And that's what happened with my son, right? With homeschool. Like there are days where I have meetings all day. I cannot sit there and help him do every little class. But I told him, you got to figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, guess what? At 5 o'clock, we're going to have more time to you have to do it after work. And he actually is figuring it out. So
wow, that is awesome. Oh, honey, yesterday was a nightmare. Oh, you survived it. You're alive.
Yes. Exactly.
I like that. Me Day Wednesday. Where's my husband? Make some suggestions around, advocate for myself a little bit. Laura, how about you?
Yeah, so I wanted to just quickly read. I think if you doubt if this idea of self-care is important, listen to this. So I think we're going into the most stressful quarter in modern day history. We have the election, we have COVID, we have the holidays, we have job insecurity, we're all working from home, nobody's had a real vacation, we're all feeling burnout, isolation, and the monotony. And people don't even know why they're feeling the way they are right now. So I think self-care is just so critical. Early on in March, I started walking at 4 to 5 in the afternoon. So I would block my calendar. It looked like a meeting 4 to 5. And the reason I did 4 to 5 is because it was so cold. I wanted to get out and walk when the sun was still out. But I really kept that hour kind of sacred so that I wouldn't just freeze my tail off and try to get out and take a walk from 4 to 5. And so that hour-long walk for me every day this summer is something that I didn't do pre-COVID. I traveled a lot. I didn't always get a workout in. But it's been a pretty sacred time that I try to give myself every day, 1 hour to walk. I've burned through 2 pairs of shoes this summer, so it's super awesome. But I think making sure, like to Nashonda's point, it doesn't matter what you do, just find something that's just for you. A couple other tips I've been doing: stand-up meetings, meaning I physically stand up for the meeting so that I'm not sitting all day, because I do feel like that makes a difference in my thinking and just being fresh. And then on meetings with closer friends that I know very well, that we don't need to have the camera on to relate, or we're not looking at documents, I've actually been saying, hey, let's take this on the phone. I go outside and just kind of walk around the backyard or walk around the block and have the same meeting, but get out of the normal space that we're in every day, because we know winter is coming. So find little ways like standing up or taking phone meetings, or find more consistent ways like Wednesdays or walking for an hour a day that really work for you, but find something just for you.
Fantastic. I love it. And Lisa, what about you?
So, I mean, really the same thing as Laura, the walking, but what the component I added to it was audiobooks. So I like to read, but it's been great that I'm able to get through more when I'm doing that daily walk, to also be listening to a book. So the only other thing I'll add, that, and I realize I'm in a little bit different situation than a lot of you, but one of my main challenges working when I had little kids was getting dinner ready. And that was always a stressful, because, inevitably, if I made something, they didn't like it, they weren't hungry, whatever. But if I didn't make something and I ordered or did something quick, then I felt guilty. And one of the things I discovered, I wish they would have had this when my kids were young, but now I really actually enjoy it, is it's called Marley and Me. It's just one of those food delivery services. But what I love about it is it's endless variety. It's fresh, not frozen. and with instructions that, you know, typically it takes like 20 minutes. So I'm actually, for the first time, enjoying cooking, usually with a glass of wine in my hand.
Yes, that
Yeah.
helps. Oh, well, I want to ask you ladies, and I can pose this to any of you because we have some time. Do you feel that there was a point in life where you really had to stop and kind of find yourself again and figure out what you enjoyed doing again, and what would give you that peace and that sense of self? Do you feel like it, you know, with balancing work and balancing family life, you kind of maybe get lost in the mix, and you had to just kind of do a deep dive at some point and just rediscover yourself?
Yeah, I know for me that definitely that happened recently, because when I you know, I had the baby and I first came back to work, and that first month was just chaotic. It was just a constant, I was in meetings all day and then working all night. I did not have the balance. And you know, I got some coaching. When you don't know what to do, you got to reach out for help. So I reached out and got some coaching that really helped me. And one of the things he told me was that you don't have to respond to everything. Like sometimes with emails come in, and I'm an type A personality, so everything I want to get to it, I want to get to it right away. And he's like, sometimes when you let the email sit a little bit, it'll resolve itself. And my gosh, he was so right. You know, it's just taking those little times to find more time. And again, through coaching and talking to friends and kind of recalibrating my life, now I'm at a balance where I'm not working, you know, late all the time, and I'm not stressed out. And I found that balance. Another thing I did was I wrote down a list of all things I would love to do if I had more time. So, you know, things like meditate, run, talk to friends more. And instead of me like saying, I always say like when I have more time, but you never have more time, I try to just take one of those things and just have it in front of my face, like, you know, kind of posted in my office so that it reminds me to do it, so that I'm not waiting until, you know, it might never happen if I time, right? So I just went through this whole recalibration, and I feel great now.
Wow, that is great. And you know, you guys talk about the things that you have added to your lives to help you feel more fulfilled. Ladies, Laura, Elisa, is there anything that you had to let go of?
Facebook. I stopped looking at Facebook because it became so depressing. I mean, I'm not kidding you. People kind of lost their minds. And I used to look at Facebook to see what my friends were doing, my friends' kids, and it just became kind of toxic. So I had to kind of step away from some technology. I went back to paper, actually. I used to keep all of my notes electronically because I was on the road a lot. And I just found when I was home, to Natasha's point, there was something, I don't know, lethargic or something about just writing things down. And so I went back to paper, and I got rid of some unhealthy technology, bad habits, quite frankly. The time sucks. So I still look at it occasionally, but not for the hours, and not for searching for something that's not there. So,
yeah, right. Well, that's a great point, especially as moms, right? You go on there and it's like people are like so like negative against in person or home, or I mean, it's like you can really, like you said, get depressed. There's a documentary I watched, The Social Dilemma, last week. And it really talks about social media, and you know, leave that documentary feeling like you're like a robot when you're in media. But that's good for you, Laura, because that is so true. You can kind of get out of your element with social media.
And it sucks away the time. You look up 30 minutes, an hour, hours have gone by. You're just sitting there scrolling. You were about to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the things that's been a little bit freeing during COVID is being able to feel that it's okay not to get like a manicure, pedicure. I didn't have to wear heels every day. I didn't have to, you know, put as much effort and thought into, you know, what outfit I had on, or whatever it was, or even, you know, getting my hair cut. And even although that can, you know, can be self-care, it could also be freeing to just like simplify your getting ready routine.
Less stress, less pressure on yourselves. You
Exactly.
can blouse at the top and pajamas at the
There's not a stand-up test, Michelle, I hope, because I might be wearing leggings. I might.
Same
Yes.
here.
We will make you stand today.
Okay, good. I'm in the clear.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to take a few minutes for Q&A from the audience. So do we have the first question?
Yes, we do. So we have a question in from Samantha. Samantha just had a baby a little over a month ago, and she will return to working from home in 2 weeks. She definitely doesn't feel ready to return because she thinks her baby might be a little bit more needier or anxious because her pregnancy was during COVID and was stressful. What advice do you have for her for creating boundaries with work and making time to pump during the workday?
So I can't give advice on pumping because I did not breastfeed. I did it for a little bit, but then I stopped. But I think, you have to find your network. I know for me, I was really stressed about that too. Like who's gonna watch the baby, and is it gonna be safe? But my neighbor just had a kid, and I was able to talk to him, and they have a child care service that they use. So I have that outlet if needed. And then the good thing is that there's a lot of people that just graduated, college graduates in the area now because of COVID that are living with their parents. And so they're looking for work and they're looking for jobs. So I've got about 2 to 3 people that, right now I use one person a couple of days a week, but I have other people on standby. So you have to just build that network, and you have to be bold about it and just kind of reach out and talk to people. I was kind of nervous asking the person that I use now, but I reached out to their mom and said, hey, would she like this opportunity? And she loves coming to watch my son. So you just have to figure out what works for you.
Anyone else want to take that question?
No, the only thing I would add is what you're feeling is normal. And I'd say if you're not ready to go back, then again, think about, do you have to go back, or could you go back part-time, or could you adjust? So I think, what you're feeling is quite normal. For me, I did pump, and even with the twins, thinking back on it, I don't know how I did it, but block your calendar for the time that you need to pump. Nobody needs to know what that hour is. They don't know if it's a meeting or something else, but I would just say block your time for that because it's important. It's just as important as the other meeting that you're going to, but that way you can kind of keep that sacred time there. So just build it into your schedule if you have the ability to block it. And don't say, oh, I need to go pump. Just say, I have another meeting, I need to go. And then end your call and go to the other one just as you would a normal business meeting. So give yourself a little bit of grace there.
Everybody doesn't need to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
What is our second question?
Okay, our second question is from Shannon. How would you suggest dialoguing with senior level executives who still value FaceTime or who are not ready for work from home?
For me, I would say that that's tough, but I think they need to realize the work from home is not going away. So maybe find ways to get some of that external marketplace education into your organization, and maybe invite them to join and listen to the conversation, because I don't think we're going to go back to what it was before. I mean, obviously people are going to need to go back into the office, but this idea of 5 days a week, 9 to 5, I don't see it happening. And so I think that they need to also understand that culture is shifting as a result of this. And there's a lot of negative pieces to it, but there are also some positive pieces to it as well. So I would work on an education, kind of an internal education opportunity, and see if you can bring some other CEOs or other external thought leaders who are there so that they can listen and be a part and hear other perspectives to maybe get an insight. I don't think we're going back full-fledged.
Yeah, there are a lot of articles right now about how pleasantly surprised most companies were, how well work from home worked, and how productive their employees actually were from home. Even some that saw productivity go up. Now, I don't think that, there's also the negative side of work from home. And so I don't think that means the office is dead by any means. There's lost innovation and creativity. And of course, everybody wants, particularly young people, that social component. But I think the good news is I think there's a big level of recognition right now, even if they prefer FaceTime, that it's possible to work from home and get your job done.
I would just add, be easy on yourself with that. I worked previously for a company that was very FaceTime. And, you could present your case, you can advocate, but at the end of the day, some people have their viewpoints. And so, at one point, you're going to have to make a decision for yourself to say, is this something that I can continue to live with and continue on from a career perspective, or do I need to look for a company that has more of that balance, and only you will be able to know when to pull that trigger. I did that, and I was very purposeful in getting the job at JLL, that I looked for a company that valued balance and that was more about productivity versus the face time. And I waited until I got that opportunity, and it took me a couple of years to get it, but I ended up, getting it with the company I'm with now. So just be easy on yourself with it. You can advocate, but then at a certain point, you might have to make a decision.
All right. And our next question, please.
Okay, this question's from Jessica. As a recent college grad, 2 years this December, who is married and now have a 7-month-old son, what advice do you have for those who are younger and early in their career while navigating parenthood?
I think you need to repeat that question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. She's a recent college grad, 2 years this December. She's married and now has a 7-month-old child. What advice do you have for those who are younger and early in their career while navigating parenthood?
I'll take this. So I was 26 when I had my son, or my daughter. I was not married. I was, kind of a couple years out of college, and because of that, I kind of played small in the world. I kind of felt like, oh man, I have a small child. I'm young. Most of my friends don't have kids. But what I realized was I shouldn't have done that. And there were opportunities that I probably missed because I did not, express that I'm still a leader. Just because I have a kid does not define me, right? And there was one opportunity in particular that I was literally, when I was pregnant, there was an opportunity to get a manager role. And one of my mentors told me to go for it. Like, yep, you're pregnant, but go for it. And they came back that, I interviewed, they came back that day and they said, sorry, Nashonda, you interviewed great. But we had another candidate that was, great, a better fit. Came home, I was really upset. And my husband at the time, I'm remarried, said, no, like cancel that. You got the job. And I'm like, they told me I didn't get it. Like, dude, stop. I come to the office and they were like, the person did not take the job and you got the job. So I was 26, my first manager job. And it just, again, it just goes to show, like, you can be, sometimes you get in your own head thinking that, okay, I'm young and I might not be able to do it, but yep, you can have a 7-month-old, you can be a leader, you can do great things in your career. Don't let that stop you.
Great advice. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just add, I think that's terrific advice, Nashonda. I wish I had you there to give me that advice when I was younger. I think that's really true, that like, I would say too, as a female, that you tend to think sometimes, you work hard, you do a good job, and then somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and give you your next promotion. And that's just not going to happen. You truly have to be very intentional about your career, like it sounds like you were, in terms of going after what you want and not be embarrassed about asking to get to the next level. And I would, I think that's great advice.
And I could chime in a little bit on that as well too. I have an older son, and I was around 26, 27 when I had him. And I think I tried to overcompensate, for the fact that, baby and, oh, sure, I can work that shift. Oh, sure, I'll come in. Oh, sure, I'll stay. And you look up and the years have gone by and you wish you had been more present and just enjoyed your child and had more bonding opportunities. And so I guess that would be my advice too, is just to, it's important to be successful. It's important to achieve your dreams and accomplish your goals, but, don't lose sight of that big accomplishment of having that little person who loves you and relies on you, and just being a mom, just soak that time up and work to build those moments and have as many of those moments as possible as well.
And Michelle, you just reminded me that when I look back, I feel like no matter what you do, you will probably feel guilty. You will either feel you will either feel that you didn't spend those times with your kids, or that you didn't go for your advocate for yourself at your job because you were too busy with your kids. So but I can tell you, I'm very, having worked all these years, I feel terrific now that my kids are grown and in a good place, and we have a great relationship. But I never stopped working, and I'm so grateful that for me, that's different for everybody, but for me, I feel grateful at this time in my life that I'm still really active and involved in my work, and now I can do things, different types of networking and so forth that I never felt I could do before, and taking on different responsibilities. So be easy on yourself.
And someone just posted, mom guilt is the worst. That is so true. And that's where we all,
is,
to the point where they're older and they're okay. And you can say, whew, it worked out. Do you have another question?
No more questions. We just have some comments now. But yeah, people definitely agree. Mom guilt is the worst.
And one of the things that's helped me, because I have, again, I've got 3 kids, and my 11-year-old and my 14-year-old. My 14-year-old daughter is like a teen, like serious teen. Like I have to, like this morning, 8:15, I'm like, why are you still in the bed? Like, I'm not gonna wake you up every day. Like, but you're gonna get punishment for this. But it's like a constant struggle just to get her to do basic things. But I'm a little easy on it. Like, again, if she doesn't wake up on time, if she fails a class, guess what? You're gonna have to take it over. So I used to be one of those moms that would like get on her and ride her and be like, oh, you have to do all this. But I'm like, you know what? My husband said sometimes life actually ends up helping out much more than you can. And that's really been a stress relief for me, because I try so hard to make sure I guide my children, but sometimes they just do their own thing. But life does come around and kind of shows them, what's going on, and how sometimes the things that I'm saying, they'll come back and go, oh yeah, Mom, I think I heard you say that. But they have to experience their own, experiences, and you can only do so much. And you have to remind yourself that, because you will go crazy trying to get your child where you want them to be. I know I did. I used to, but now I'm like, whatever. You want to do that? You're gonna have to repeat gym. If you want to feel gym, okay, you'll just have to take summer school, or you won't graduate. Like and I hate to be like that, but I just can't stress for my child like that. She's going to have to learn her own lessons.
You are preaching to the choir.
I think the older I get, the more I quote my mom too. It's like when you grow up, you're like, oh, I don't want to be like this, like my mom. But the older I get, the more I quote her. So there's some wisdom there.
Well, this was great, ladies. And I'm seeing a lot of the comments from people saying that they really gained something this afternoon, and they really appreciate all of you sharing your experiences and sharing your wisdom and your advice. We just have a few minutes left, so I want to make sure I thank everyone for joining us today for It Starts With Mom, live from Chicago. Again, a huge thanks to all of our panelists. Ladies, I feel like we're friends now. And also our partners, Barilla America, JLL, Saviles US, and NBC5. I hope that you all feel empowered and inspired to better navigate being a working mom during COVID-19 after today's discussion. And as we continue to face this public health crisis together, know that March of Dimes will continue fighting for healthy moms and babies. They are a reliable resource and support system for moms and babies, not just during the COVID-19 pandemic, but all the time. And don't forget, for our next It Starts With Mom live from Chicago panel, we're going to tackle the subject of talking to your children about race. That's going to be another important conversation, and it's going to happen in October. So I invite all of you to visit itstartswithmom.org for more information, resources, and support from all of us here. Thank you again for joining us today for It Starts With Mom, live from Chicago. We will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.